Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old Fourth Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
All right, thank you for joining me, whether you're listening on the America One Radio app, AmericaOneRadio.com, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, or if you tune in via podcast. Hey, thanks for doing that. Certainly appreciate that. I'm going to read real quick from an Atlanta Journal-Constitution article that posted about 22 hours ago, just as soon as I was wrapping yesterday's show with a city council candidate, Matt Rinker. We got news that the Atlanta City Council voted, this is Zachary Hansen's writing in the AJC, voted to allow one of the largest projects along the Beltline in Piedmont Park to move forward, albeit by a razor-thin margin. By an 8-6 vote, with one council member not present, the council has decided to rezone the Amsterdam Walk property near Monroe Drive to allow for more dense residential development as part of a project proposed by Atlanta-based developer Portman Holdings. The rezoning allows for up to 1,100 apartments to be included within the nearly 1.2 million square foot project. Notably, there is opposition to that from residents, many of them longtime residents, surrounding the Amsterdam Walk development. Among those, Charles Kafton. Let's listen to him addressing Atlanta City Council yesterday prior to the vote.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for your service. Affordable housing and smart, sensible development. The two things are not mutually exclusive. They can happen together if the will is there. When the community speaks up and says yes to affordable housing and yes to smart, sensible, right-sized development, it's not crazy. It makes sense. So all we're saying is let's do something that makes sense and is sensible for the community. And when the community rises up, maybe sometimes they're right. And history in Atlanta shows that to be the case. When a developer came along and wanted to tear down the Fox Theater and build, I don't know exactly what, but some new glass tower, the community rose up and said, no, the Fox Theater is a great asset for this city. And imagine today if the Fox Theater wasn't here, if the community had not been listened to. Or what about when they wanted to build a highway through Virginia Highland community, tearing down homes, make it easier for more car traffic? Would that be an advantage for the city of Atlanta? No. The community rose up and said no to that new highway. And what about the plan to build a water treatment plant on 10th and Monroe, where the meadow is in Piedmont Park, where the Dogwood Festival is, and the Jazz Festival, and people and families use that space? Would the city be a better city if it had a water treatment plant there? No, the community rose up and said no to that. And so when the community rises up and says that something is not smart, something is not sensible, it's not good for the whole city of Atlanta, not just the neighborhood, but it has implications for the whole city of Atlanta. Because if a project goes forward, despite the voice of the community, developers will take advantage of this everywhere. So please listen to the community. Thank you.
And joining me now from the A Better Amsterdam Walk, what would you call yourself? An advocacy group, I guess you say, neighborhood association, is that man, Charles. We are going to call him Charlie because he said to call him Charlie Kafton. How are you this morning?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me.
So, first of all, thanks for speaking up. I have people who listen to this podcast who hear me come in to talk about domestic politics at the federal level, state level, regional level. This is a pretty micro topic for the kind of audience that tunes in for my show. But this is, I think, emblematic of something greater than just Amsterdam Walk or the Morningside neighborhood or those who have to traverse Monroe Avenue at any point in time. This is another example here in the city of Atlanta where city council and its mayor, in some of his actions as well, ignore the will of the people who show up to speak in opposition to something that they are more eager to vote in favor of the moneyed interests. That's deeply concerning for me because I'm a Democrat and Atlanta is filled with Democrats on council and its mayor's a Democrat as well. And being beholden to moneyed interest is something that we always point to the right and say that's their problem. But that's a problem here in Atlanta as well. So first of all, my condolences to you and your association yesterday for not convincing enough city council members to listen to your pleas. I have to ask, having seen the work that you've done to get the city and Portman Holdings to agree to keep paring down this development. I mean, I guess that's bittersweet, but where do you stand this morning, knowing that the zoning has been approved by the city and this massive development on a parcel of land with very little egress or ingress, it's going to affect your neighborhood. It's going to affect anybody who travels on that area of town on Monroe Avenue, which is already a headache in and of itself. I'll just open the mic and let you speak. More than 2 minutes, if you'd like.
Sure. So, first of all, we're just an advocacy group, and also Portman Holdings has reconfigured things, but they haven't pared it down at all. It was 1.18 million square feet before, with 1,435 parking spaces, and it is still 1.18 million square feet with 1,435 parking spaces. They just reduced it. They squashed down the size of the buildings, made them flatter, wider, but it's the same massive overkill. This is like, imagine a sardine can which holds 20 sardines. Can hold 10 sardines. That's the size of Amsterdam Walk, and you're trying to cram 30 sardines into a tin can that holds 10. That's what this is about. So this is a travesty for the city of Atlanta, and it does have implications beyond, because Maynard Jackson, about 50 years ago, set up a fairly robust community empowerment system called the NPU system.
Right.
And the city did this in order to empower local communities to have a real say in what goes on. So the city council, by doing what it did yesterday, turned its back on the citizens of Atlanta, because this negates the NPU system. The NPU voted 77% against this project.
Correct.
And we had one of the biggest turnouts of any NPU Zoom meeting ever. The zoning review board voted against this rezoning. That's been negated. The Morningside Leonard Park Association, which originally supported the Portman project, came out 2 weeks ago against the project. And neighboring associations, Ansley Park and Piedmont Heights, also issued statements calling on the city council to reject the project. So it goes way beyond just our advocacy group, A Better Amsterdam Walk. What this means is that the city, in its single-minded obsession with increasing density as the solution to the housing crisis, is willing to just basically say, we don't care about what any community says, what any neighborhood association says. We're going forward because we think this is the panacea. And it's a joke, because what is going on in the city? Atlanta is known as one of the worst cities for concentration of ownership of homes and apartments by private equity corporations. These are big, mega billionaire corporations buying properties all over the country. The other thing that is killing the housing market in Atlanta is the short-term rental mania that's going on. All these homes and apartments that are Airbnbs, those used to be homes open for local residents to buy and rent. Those are taken off the market. So this is what is causing the distortion in the housing market. Now, having said all that, we're all for affordable housing.
Sure.
And they have tried to portray this as like, well, these people are against affordable housing.
Yeah, but this isn't. This is apartments. These aren't condos. These aren't affordable condominiums or townhomes or single family homes.
That is correct. They're rental properties,
Yeah.
and of the 1,100 apartments, 240 are designated for quote affordable housing. Now, just to drive home the point that we're not against affordable housing, and we could spend time arguing their formula of how they calculate affordable housing, and how what they calculate as affordable is not low-income housing. There's a difference between what is defined by this city as, quote, affordable housing and low-income housing.
Sure.
And affordable housing is not low-income housing, but people think the two things are the same.
You're right.
They're not. They're not. And so people who are earning low incomes, baristas, waiters, school teachers, they can't afford what is called affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, we would be quite fine if they put forward a normal size proposal for this parcel, which we think is about 300 apartments, and make them all affordable housing.
Mm.
So we would have more than the 240 that Portman is proposing. So now, whether there would be a developer who would come along who would agree to that is another question. Because another thing that goes on in this city is that developers sign on to provide a certain portion of their properties as affordable housing, and then they back out of it and pay a fine, which for them they've
Slap on the
decided.
wrist. Yeah.
They decided as a cost-benefit analysis, it's cheaper for them to pay the fine.
Right.
The same issue goes on with the tree ordinance protection. The developers just chop down the trees and pay the fine. So the city has been sold to the developers. They control the city. And the message that is sent to the developers by this decision is, you don't have to worry about the community. You don't have to worry about the NPUs. You don't have to worry about the zoning review board. We will make sure that at the end of the day, your applications are approved. So yes, you have to go through the motions, and maybe all those entities along the way reject what you put forward. But don't worry, at the end of the day, you'll get everything approved. So, I mean, if I were a developer, I'm drinking champagne. I'm celebrating.
The thing that sort of complicates all of this too is not just the impact it's going to have on the walkability, well, the walkable areas around Amsterdam Walk, this new development, but also the traffic. I mean, any of us who have driven up or down Monroe knows that it's already a thoroughly overused thoroughfare without turn lanes. And we just saw weeks ago where the mayor's office decided to pivot from embracing Beltline rail, which would have really helped with this development as far as negating that traffic impact, had the Beltline rail continued to be developed on the east side versus now going to the south side, which we both know isn't going to happen for decades now, and also scuttling the east side in its more proximate timeline. It just seems like a mixed message. And Portman Holdings, by the way, many of their executives had been pushing all along to scuttle East Side Beltline rail from the jump. So I'm trying to understand, outside of Portman Holdings, who does this benefit?
It benefits Mayor Dickens because he, is known as the, quote, affordable housing mayor, and he is going to use this project in his campaign. It benefits all those who believe that the solution to the housing crisis is just proposing mega projects like this all over the city. But to your point about the traffic, Monroe Drive is a death trap.
Yeah.
The accidents are daily. The wreckage piles up. There was another huge wreck yesterday, a couple of days ago. 2 people got killed on the corner of Piedmont and Monroe. At the city council, a mother and her 2 sons testified against the project, talking about how their grandmother got run over on Monroe. It is notorious. It is designated by Georgia Department of Transportation as well above the state average for accidents and fatalities and injuries. It is going to be an absolute nightmare because no one is controlling the development all along, up and down the Monroe Drive corridor. To add insult to injury, Portman Holdings managed to contract for a traffic study with a firm known as Kimley Horn, which does a tremendous amount of business here in Atlanta. They seem to get all the traffic contracts. As amazing as this will sound to your listeners, Kimley Horn put together a traffic study about 2 years ago indicating that a development of this size would likely generate approximately 4,000 driveway trips in and out of this project off of Monroe, but that would have no negative impact on the traffic situation. Now, when that study first came out, we said this is completely delusional.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have tried valiantly to find somebody who would go through this traffic study and find out if this is in any way possibly credible. We're not traffic engineers, so we don't portend to make that judgment. But we say on the face of it, it's delusional just because we live here and we work here and we know what Monroe Drive is.
Imagine,
So-
here's what I would equate that to. Imagine a minor league baseball stadium plop down in your neighborhood and the traffic that game would generate, because that's about the approximate size of the attendance of a minor league baseball game. Say 6,500 people show up and you needed 4,000 cars to get those 6,500 people in and out. That's
Exactly.
That's the sort of impact you would have on Monroe, which is, again, already taxed. It doesn't have turn lanes, et cetera, and so on.
Right. And then, to add to that, so if this is a cul-de-sac. This is a dead
It's
end
a one in, one out. Yep.
landlocked cul-de-sac.
Yep.
Okay. So right now there's only one way in or out, tiny Amsterdam Avenue. But because of that tight turn at Monroe and Amsterdam, so in order to do it, trucks cannot make that turn.
Nope.
Okay. So they're going to build a new access road through Evelyn Street through a part of Piedmont Park, which is technically owned by Department of Watershed Management, because that's going to be their route of all the thousands, and I'm talking about thousands of trucks that are going to have to go in and out to do the demolition and then the construction, all the cement trucks, plus how many pickup trucks for all the workers that are going to have to be in there every day.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a pending catastrophe on Monroe Drive. And no one has thought this through. They're just so single-mindedly obsessed with, we're going to get 240 affordable housing units, and Dickens is going to run with that. We support affordable housing, but we also support smart, sensible development. This property cannot handle this massive size. Now, why did they need it rezoned?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to let you pick up on that. Why did it need to be rezoned? Yes, I definitely want to pick up on that. However, because I'm a show and I gotta answer to the folks who need the commercial breaks at America One Radio and Progressive Voices. I do have to take a quick break. In fact, we're running a little long. We're with Charlie Kaftan with the advocacy group A Better Amsterdam Walk, fresh on the heels of City Council ignoring the pleas of the residents of that area of town and rubber stamping and development. We'll come back and discuss that when the Ron Show returns. You can follow The Ron Show on your preferred social media platforms at Ron Show ATL, Twitter, X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, Substack. We're all over there. Charlie Kaftan joining us from A Better Amsterdam Walk. Had to be disappointed walking out of City Council yesterday with an 8-6 vote to approve zoning of the Amsterdam development that Portman Holdings wants to build. 1,100 apartments, 1,400 parking spaces in a spot where there's only one way in and out, a 2-lane road essentially, onto Monroe. And we're seeing density. Density is not a bad thing. For a city of Atlanta, Atlanta needs more density, but it needs more transportation needs in order to meet the density. And there's an argument about the chicken or egg, which comes first, density or transportation. This to me seems like a bit of a shoehorning. We're with Charlie Kaftan. Charlie, you were telling us about the zoning process of this parcel, the necessity of that rezoning.
Due to a historical anomaly, this little tiny 11-acre, actually it's 10.9-acre parcel of land, a cul-de-sac, is zoned as C1 zoning, which is commercial zoning.
Right.
And that's just because before there used to be some kind of, I think it was a cement factory.
Yeah.
I think way back when, and then it got converted into this, kind of funky retro small shop place with a ballet academy, a gym. And there's plenty of business going in there, in and out of there every day. Those businesses are very happy. They'd be very happy to be left alone and thrive. But in any case, under C1 zoning, the theory is, and this was used as a threat against us all along for 2 years. Walmart could come in there, Kmart could come in there, Costco could come in there. So if you don't approve this project, you're going to get a big box store in there. I mean, this is the most ludicrous scare tactic that's been used from the get-go. Yes, legally, maybe that's the case. Also, legally, they say, well, we can put in 2,500 parking spaces. So we're only going to put in 1,435. So you should thank us. Under C1 zoning, they're allowed to build 300 residences plus commercial.
Yeah.
And yes, they could put in, 300 housing units and a Costco in theory, but it's not going to happen. So under current zoning, they could have easily decided to put in 300 housing units and maybe a few restaurants, a cafe, make it really nice. It's right there on the belt line, so people could come in off the belt line and sit in outdoor cafes, make it a green space. But no, because they're going for return on investment. How can I make the biggest buck here?
Money seems to talk with city council when the residents aren't being heard. We'll pick up on this conversation when the Ron Show returns. America One Radio, Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast.
This is the Ron Show on America One Radio.
So, those of you who listen, you like to hear me chew on Donald Trump or Governor Brian Kemp. Today's a little bit more of a micro issue, but I think it's an issue that is a little alarming in that here in the city of Atlanta, we have a full slate of elected Democrats in City Hall, City Council, Mayor's office. The mayor, by the way, up for re-election, several council seats up for election as well, and incumbents abound up and down. And there is opposition springing forth for a few of the council positions, but no one of any notoriety running against the incumbent Mayor Andre Dickens, which might portend you think, oh, he's a popular guy. He's done a fantastic job. There is enough to nibble on. There's enough meat on the bone to question why there isn't someone of any notoriety running against Mayor Andre Dickens. We're talking with a member of the advocacy group A Better Amsterdam Walk, Charlie Kafkin, who joins us after City Council yesterday voted 8-6 to approve a development plan that is going to bring about 1,400 parking spaces, 1,100 apartments to a small parcel of land in a mostly single-family home development area of Monroe in the Morningside area of Atlanta. Deeply concerning in that there really isn't transportation there to handle what already exists in that area of Atlanta, and now we're going to add thousands more vehicles. One of the things that I noticed in today's Georgia Recorder, by the way, a story came out. Atlanta's air quality gets a failing grade according to the American Lung Association in a national ranking. Let me read from this article real quick, and I'll let you respond to it as well, Charlie. Stanley Dunlap at the Georgia Recorder reporting the American Lung Association's 2025 Annual Air Quality Index gives failing grades to Georgia's Population Center for smog and air pollution. The American Lung Association's State of the Air report released Wednesday ranks Atlanta third worst in ozone pollution and fourth worst in year-round counts for particle pollution in the Southeast. The association's 28th annual report examines data during a 3-year window from 2021 to 2023, a period during the transition out of a pandemic that had kept the roads clearer due to more people working from home. Atlanta's grade also slips from C to F for ground-level ozone pollution after recording 5.5 unhealthy days per year compared to 1.8 days in the 2024 report. Charlie, you live in this area where you're going to see thousands more vehicles eventually impacting your way of life, your quality of life in the home that you live in and that you've lived in for a number of years. Did this ever come up in the conversation by chance when you were talking with civic officials and going back and forth, sparring with the Portman Holdings folks to try and pare down what is obviously a development that appears to be way too big for the transportation, let alone the footprint?
Oh, yes. I mean, we brought these issues up constantly, and we constantly went to Portman Holdings, to Mike Green, who's the front person leading the charge for Portman Holdings. And we said, why can't you build something at a normal, what we consider a normal size that would be appropriate, that would be right-sized for this property?
Well, you gave the answer last segment, return on investment.
Well, what he said exactly at a meeting, and I'm quoting him verbatim, he said, because I sent him numerous examples of other developments, which are kind of normal, and he said, thank you, Charlie, for sending me those. But Jack Halpern, the owner of Amsterdam Walk, is not prepared to leave money on the table.
There you go.
That is a verbatim quote from Mike Green of Portman Holdings. So that's what it all comes down to. Now, the other thing that should be pointed out, which I neglected before, is that the Beltline has a new master plan. It has had a master plan since 2012, and in that master plan, it designates a certain density for Amsterdam Walk. And it describes a mix of low and medium density of buildings, 1 to 4 stories on the exterior of the property, 1 to 4, and 5 to 9 on the interior. Yes, on the interior. And so it's graded, in other words.
Right.
So, but what has Portman done? They have made all the buildings throughout the whole property 9 stories,
Right.
crammed them in there, and then claims that this new version of this project, quote, more closely, unquote, aligns with the Beltline master plan. It either does or it doesn't align with the master plan. It's not more closely.
Yeah.
Now, to your other point about mass transit and the traffic. So the original Beltline master plan, by the way, back in 2012, had light rail as an integral, essential element of any future development on the Beltline. It was not
Right.
optional. It was not optional. Okay, so what did the city do? The city just ignored that and just went ahead with all the development parts that are outlined in that master plan, but left out mass transit of any sort. Now, what is our position within a Better Amsterdam Walk?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
We don't know what the best mass transit solution is, whether it's the light rail or some people have said e-buses or whatever. Our point is simple. You can't do this kind of development without having mass transit of some kind. Otherwise, the project is 100% car-centric. That's the reality. So, and this idea that everyone's going to be working from home, it's nonsense. No, that's not happening anymore. In fact, the city just called back. It's 8,000 to 9,000 city workers. They're not allowed to work from home anymore. So that's over. That whole thing is over, and it can't be used as an excuse. The other excuse we were told is, well, this is right on the Beltline, so everyone's just going to walk and bike. Yeah. I mean, come on, it's not realistic. Not everybody is able to do that. And there's not, is everyone going to bike and walk to the supermarket, to their doctor's appointments, to whatever? I mean, so every time that we have tried to be reasonable with Portman, to get them to scale it down, to deal with the traffic problem, we've just been rebuffed. They have basically said, this is it, take it or leave it.
So let me point out, by the way, that your city councilman, Alex Wan, actually voted against this project. So your local representation is listening to you, your at-large council folks as well. It's the rest of the Atlanta City Council that you cannot vote for, who didn't. The mayor, obviously, in support of Portman Holdings as well. Again, a lot of these folks are on the ballot. So what comes of this? Talk to me about what the vibe is inside your community about that. Will someone emerge? I just keep seeing what seems to be a piling up of reasons for there to be an anti-incumbency wave, for there to be an uprising of some sort, whether it be the Atlanta Public Safety Training Facility, which, by the way, your city councilman actually voted for, despite immense turnout in support of defying it. I'm just wondering, at what point does a city council and a mayor's office that doesn't listen to the will of the people or ignores their signatures on ballots, at what time do they pay the price?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, and I wish I had the answer, but I don't. What I can say is that Alex Wan, yes, he did wind up voting against this project, but he was kind of late to the game. He took a position very early on, sort of sitting on the fence. His response was always, I usually support the NPU. Okay, that's what he kept repeating. Okay. And he kept repeating, and even after the NPU voted in May 2024, 77% against this project, he continued. He could have come out at that point in time, if he didn't want to before, and said, okay, the NPU has voted against this. I am standing with the NPU and my community. He didn't. He waited and waited and waited, and basically didn't finally publicly come out against this project until January this year, when he was basically forced to. The at-large representatives, Matt Westmoreland, he's been very supportive of us,
Good.
and he voted no.
Yeah.
Michael Bond voted no. And even though Shay Collins was not at the meeting, apparently due to a family emergency, we were in contact with her, and she indicated she was going to stand with the community and vote no. So, and then the other two who voted no were Mary Norwood, who says that she always supports the district representative, and Liliani Bakhtiari,
Yeah.
who everyone knows is always a very strong supporter of the community and listens to the community.
Mm-hmm.
So the 8 that didn't vote, who voted in favor of Portman, are in other districts,
Yeah.
which we can't touch in terms of our vote in November. And so, so it was a quote a safe vote for them. So people are frustrated by the representation. We're disappointed in Mayor Dickens. We thought this was going to be a change from the old ways of business in Atlanta. We don't see that. We wanted much more robust leadership from Alex Wan. We didn't see that. Your question is a valid question. Let's face it. Let's be honest. It's a thankless job. I mean, it's it's not easy being to run a city of this complexity.
Sure.
And so it's on one hand, it's not surprising that people aren't jumping at the bit to get in there and tackle this monster. But having said that, if you take on that responsibility, then you have to step up and listen to the community and just balance the needs of progress of the city, development of the city. We get it, but it cannot just be, all holes, just let it rip. I mean, and that's basically what is being done here. I mean, look what's going on at the Gulch. So the Gulch, the developers at the Gulch promised all this affordable housing. They've backed out of it. They're just going to pay the fine. So someone needs to regulate the developers, and this government is not doing it.
Well, the other thing that sort of where I don't understand what the left hand and the right hand are doing, they seem to be disparate. Again, I go back to the transportation part, because even if you're going to allow opt-outs or fine paying to avoid the affordable housing part, it's the transportation part that enables the affordable housing to occur somewhere else. The city of Atlanta, Fulton County, Metro Atlanta, the lack of mass transit outside of Fulton, Clayton, and DeKalb has a lot to do with, the cost of housing elsewhere too. If, for example, someone wanted to live in McDonough, Georgia, but had a job in downtown Atlanta, it'd be much more attainable for them to do that if they had a rail element that got them to and from it, versus sitting on 75 for sometimes an hour, hour and a half one way to make that happen. Where housing is more affordable in Henry County, where it is more affordable in Rockdale County, where it is more affordable in Fayette or Douglas County, there's no viable way to get there. And that's what I don't understand. If you're going to allow for the opt-outs, inside the perimeter, in city limits, you at least have to embrace mass transit as a solution to that. And I'm not seeing that happening. That's the confounding part for me. And this vote right here epitomizes where the city council and its mayor don't seem to be on the same page when it comes to density and transportation needs at the same time. It's about what the bottom line looks like, who's got the most money and shows up to the meetings with their needs, and the ones with the most money wind up getting the yays.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. That's certainly what it looks like. And Atlanta is famous for its traffic problems. And they're just making it worse and worse and worse and worse. So nothing is being done. There needs to be a regional mass transit plan.
Yeah.
I don't know, a 10-year, 20-year plan to get us out of this fix. Because, I mean...
it'll take 50. It'll take 50 years at minimum, if we started today.
whatever. But I mean, but somebody needs to say.
Well, if only we had a chairman on the Atlanta Regional Commission who could do that. I'm trying to think who that is right now. Let me look that up. Oh, it's Mayor Andre Dickens.
Yeah, I mean, somebody needs to step up and say the way that we are developing this region is not sustainable from a traffic standpoint, and something needs to be done. Because we are headed for, as Maria Saporta wrote in an article a while back, a traffic catastrophe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Those were her words.
Yep.
And somehow this message needs to get through to the power brokers in this city.
Well, and at the state level, too. I mean, at some point in time, the state needs to step up. I mean, the state doesn't contribute a dime to mass transit for MARTA, or, hasn't weighed in on the belt. Like, these are state issues, too. And if the economic engine of the state, which is the city and the metro region, start to clog up, as a car's engine will, when you don't clean it out, when you don't provide necessary ventilation and whatnot, then the car doesn't run.
Exactly.
Charlie,
I agree. I agree with you completely. It's a state issue.
I want to ask, what's next?
Well, we are, licking our wounds, and we're going to get together and decide what our next steps are, and we'll definitely make them public. We've been transparent all along, and once we have our game plan put together, we'll make that available to our supporters and to the community at large. But it's a dark day for the city of Atlanta. The implications of this decision go way beyond Amsterdam Walk. This has got implications for the entire city of Atlanta and what this city is going to become in the future. So, what can I say? Stay tuned.
Well, I'm sorry things didn't work out in your favor yesterday at City Hall. And again, I don't live in your neighborhood, but I traverse it all the time. It impacts citizens on this side of Atlanta, not just in that area of Atlanta. And I'm sorry it didn't. And look, anybody who likes to enjoy a day at Piedmont Park, this is a pain in the ass. Anyway. Charlie Kaftan, Better Amsterdam Walk. You guys are on socials, by the way. It's easy to find a Better Amsterdam Walk, for instance, on Facebook if you'd like to follow along. And we'll keep watching to see what happens next and what you guys decide to do to continue to fight this development. Charlie Kaftan with a Better Amsterdam Walk. Thanks for joining the Ron Show today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Final few minutes, today's Ron Show. And again, I know those of you who you come in or you listen on Progressive Voices or America One Radio looking to hear a continuation of the anti-Trump diatribe, the anti-Musk diatribe. I'm all on board on that. In fact, we're seeing the effects of our organization actually bearing fruit. So, and I'll get to that here in just a second, but I want to real quick dial back in on what a lot of folks may be pushing back and saying, oh, you're just catering to NIMBYism. No, actually, if you listen to my conversation with Mr. Kaftan the entire time, it sounds to me like an association, a collection of residents in that area of Atlanta that were willing to bargain with, to work with, to accept some of the plans that could have been put forth instead of the absolute ignoring by city council, by the mayor, by Portman Holdings of what will be the impact on such a large development with so many parking spaces and so many apartment units, not even homes for sale, condominiums, townhomes, anything like that. This isn't NIMBYism. This is speaking out against having the needs of current residents being taken into account, the impacts being taken into account. So it's very disappointing, and I understand their disappointment, and it's very disappointing for those of us who live in a city that is just beholden to gridlock. And I don't see local or state officials lifting a finger to do a damn thing about it. There's like 500,000 people that live in the city of Atlanta. And the needs of that large chunk of the population aren't being met. The impact, sitting in traffic, having a vehicle, car insurance, tires because we're not taking care of streets like Monroe, by the way. It all adds up. Time spent in traffic is costly as well. Anyway, I applaud anyone who's going to continue to fight the fight and understand that, we're up against slightly less than 4 years still at the federal level of what is going to be a long slog and a tough fight. But there are signs that continuing to fight the good fight, however possible, does bear fruit. Last night from NBC News, by the way.
Breaking news tonight from Tesla. The CEO, Elon Musk, saying his time at Doge will drop significantly next month.
Bye.
Brian Chung is here. Brian, what's this all about?
Lester, that's right. Elon Musk said that he would be scaling back and significantly dropping back on his work with Doge starting next month, promising to commit more time to his car company, saying he's scaling back time at the agency, quote, now that the major work of establishing the Department of Government Efficiency is done.
Sure.
He added that he will spend a day or two a week on government matters as long as President Trump would like him to. The news came as Tesla tonight reported a 71% drop in net income from last year. Tesla said trade policy adversely impacts costs for the company and said changing political sentiment could have a meaningful impact on customer demand for its vehicles. Tesla stock, Lester, down over 40%.
Meanwhile, locally, the Reverend Dr. Jamal Bryant at the New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Stonecrest has been leading a boycott of Target. He's calling on Target, I'm reading from the AJC, to meet 4 demands, including depositing $250 million in black-owned banks, restoring the commitment to DEI, pledging $2 billion to black businesses, and creating pipeline community centers at 10 historically black colleges and universities. Since talking to Target executives, Bryant says they've agreed to pledge the $2 billion to black businesses, but they've yet to meet the other demands, so the boycott will continue. Here's the next headline. Since the mobilization of the boycott, Target stock price has dropped, continuing a slide prompted by other factors, including the imposition by the Trump administration of tariffs on foreign goods. Target stock price was $124 at the end of February, but is hovering in the low $90 range now. Now, what does this do to their bottom line? How is it impacting sales? I mean, stocks and sales, those are totally different things. I'm reading from a Gannett article that I found in the Reno Gazette-Journal. In February 2025, the first month of boycotts, Target's foot traffic was down 9.5% according to Placer.ai. The week of March 31st, Target store traffic was down 7.9% compared to the previous year, Newsweek reported. In Nevada, foot traffic in March was down 4.6% compared to a year ago, according to Placer.ai. Consumer activism is effective. But listen, it ain't just Target. It's Amazon. I do not order on Amazon. It's AT&T. I got to change my service. Bank of America, Citigroup, Chipotle, Disney, Ford, GM, John Deere, Harley-Davidson's, Lowe's. Okay, got to change that. McDonald's, I don't eat there. Paramount, I don't subscribe. Pepsi, I don't drink. Starbucks, can't afford. No, I don't drink. Let's see. Uber, I don't use. Victoria's Secret, okay, I can fit. No, I'm kidding. Walmart and Warner Brothers Discovery among the companies that have removed DEI language. Knowledge is everything, and consumer activism does work. That's the thing. In this whole conversation, even about the Amsterdam Wall conversation, it's about the money. It's about making the money do the talking. And apparently, showing up to City Hall and having voices and unifying your voice doesn't really move the needle as much as, well, your vote, for one, but also consumer activism. So how do you combat a Portman Holdings, a developer, by the way? I don't know that you do, but they're going to have retail offerings in this new development, and the neighbors around it don't have to set foot in any of them if they so choose. And empty retail is blight. It's kind of blight. It doesn't really pay off for the developer in that realm. So then they just become a mass landlord. Well, being a mass landlord really does pay off. We do know that. Anyway, my thanks to Charlie Kafkin for joining us from A Better Amsterdam Walk. And for you, thank you for listening. I appreciate that. This show airs 9 a.m., 5 p.m. weekdays on America One Radio, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn, and on all the major podcast platforms. Show notes, as always, at ronshowatl.com. Enjoy your Wednesday. Back tomorrow. See you then.